Hi, I'm Ulysses,
And I'm James.
and this is Comics Odyssey. Today we're going to look at the DC Comics Guide to Writing Comics by Dennis O'Neil. It's not a comics per se, but it's certainly comics related. I read this early 2000s, came out in 2001. I had a um, I had like a period of time where I discovered that I could go to the library. I was living on the East Coast back then, a small province, and you could request any book from any library in the whole province, and they would send it to your local library. So even though I was living in a small town with a very small library, I had access to, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of books. And I discovered I could just search the library uh, for comics. And I got all the comics and I read all of them. And I read a whole bunch of poker books and just everything that I was obsessed with, I was just read. And this was one of them. And I remember reading this and thinking part of the way through, what am I doing? I'm reading about writing comics. Am I going to write comics? I'm not going to write comics, but I still couldn't stop. And that was my experience, my initial experience with this book. James, you own this book. When did you get this book? What's the story between your of your relationship to this book?
I got it for Christmas. And probably about 13 or 14 years ago, maybe 16, a while ago. And I honestly am ashamed to say I haven't opened it until we decided to do a video on it. There's some really good stuff in there.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, that's good. I'm glad that I was able to spur you on to, renewing your relationship to this book.
Yeah. Now, I was going to say before we segue to, excuse me, my history with the book, it's funny because you were reading this wondering why, because you're not going to write comic books, and here you are writing a comic book and drawing.
Exactly.
Did you find that did you take much from this?
I did. I sure did. It stuck with me even like 20 years later, some of the basic stuff that's in here, it stuck
Yeah.
with me. Of course, I reread it. This is my third time reading it. Uh, and I even reading it this time for the show, I made a change to my comic. I removed a page. Like page one, I realized that my page one was redundant and I could just remove it. And
Yeah.
so even third time reading it, I'm learning from it. So it's a good book.
Yeah, I agree. Writing is well, any form of art is, if you're doing it properly for the project, not for your entertainment. I think that's what separates an artist from a hobbyist. If you're really an artist, it'll be very humbling, and you'll find that you'll have put sometimes 10 hours into a thing and realize stepping back, like, this isn't needed. I can just not use it, kind of
Mhm.
thing.
In graphic design school, they used to say, kill your babies, which is a pretty gruesome analogy, but
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. I've heard
yeah.
it in other environments, though. Um, yeah. I like thinking of artwork as like a boxer, and I'm the coach, and I'm training this guy to go out into the environment and take on the world.
Hmm. I prefer the don't get married to your ideas analogy. It's less
That's
gruesome.
cool. Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive in. Um, I'm thinking we'll just like kind of bounce back and forth. We're not necessarily going to, go page by page or anything. It's a pretty big book. Um, and yeah, at the beginning, outset, he kind of lays out certain definitions, breaks down rather certain elements of comics and names them so that we all know what he's talking about. but for the most part, most of us are like intuitively know these things like word balloon names and stuff. Um, I did
Yeah.
make some notes here. Um, he's discussing uh, different types of terminology that I kind of feel like this book is a book that he wrote to give people who might be new and arrive at DC. And it's like, okay, you got to read this so that you all know, we all know we're talking about the same thing. Like, what's a story arc, definitions of that sort of thing.
Difference between a word bubble and a caption.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, Discussing story spine here. Um, this is where it gets a little bit more into the technical craft of writing. Simply, that a story spine is what the story is about, or put another more complicated way, it's the sequence of events leading to the inevitable conclusion. Any event that has nothing to do with reaching that conclusion can be said to be off the spine. So it got me thinking when you read a story and it feels like it's a tight story, it's probably because there's nothing off the spine.
Hmm. Yeah. No, for sure. And sometimes that's useful if you've got like a part two coming up, and like Chris Claremont would be good for that. He'd throw a little bit of the story off the spine in every X-Men issue, to a degree, I think, to set up the next story arc. If you're fighting Apocalypse today, maybe it's Fing Fang Foom tomorrow, and while you're reading about the Apocalypse fight, Fing Fang Foom is waking up elsewhere, kind of thing.
He does have
So,
a part where that is discussed explicitly here. Um, this one here, uh, when discussing Paul Levitz, how to
okay,
set up, like he's got plot A, plot B, plot C, and how to promote B plots to plot A.
yeah,
So the plot resolves and the subplot gets promoted to the plot, and then plot C, which was just a hint of something, becomes plot B. So it's this constant churn because it's an ongoing story. It's not like a manga where it's like it has an ending. It has to be ongoing.
yeah, yeah, for sure. That's one of the interesting things about comic books is that it doesn't have an ending, so you can't. There's like philosophies that come out of the storytelling style. It's hard to make sense of Batman putting up with Joker for as long as he has over the last 60 years, all the horrible things Joker's done.
Yeah.
But you can't end the Joker because it's an ongoing story. You're going to need him for the next writer who comes in and take over the book, and he's just worth too much money.
At a certain point, like you say, the characters become properties, right?
That's right, yeah. And so they have to find a way to justify Batman never, you don't have to kill Joker. You could just, if you're Batman, you could probably just mess up his kidney and liver and his spine and give him paralyzation or something like that, paralyze him. Just gruesomely. I'm not saying this is as a suggestion to fix problems in life, but that if we're talking about Batman putting up with Joker after all the horrible things that's happened to Gordon and Gordon's daughter, Barbara, and like every character, basically, sooner or later you could just do something to eliminate the problem without, crossing that ultimate line. But a philosophy comes up to sort of make sense of why they're not, when the real reason why Joker is always a problem in Gotham is because he's worth too much money, and it's an ongoing story, unlike manga.
There's a story and a meta story almost.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It struck me that a lot of these terms, as a writer artist, I don't need them because I don't need to communicate these things to other people. So these
Yeah.
terms become important when strictly writing comics because you have to communicate to your artist and you need a common vocabulary in order to communicate properly.
Absolutely.
I have a note here about different writer types. He's talking. He's defining writer. Um, but he's saying the writer can also be the penciler sometimes, or the inker, or the letterer, colorist. And these cross disciplines are relatively rare in the industry, and it made me think about the different kinds of writers there. And I kind of personally, I kind of classify as two groups of writers, basically. The writers who can and the writers who can't draw.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially for comics, because writers who can draw are going to be probably a little bit more prone to thinking visually. So Mark Miller, Grant Morrison, these are guys who can, like Alan Moore, they can draw, just maybe not at the level, or just maybe they preferred not to do that grind. But somebody like Brian Michael Bendis, when you look at his books, there's a lot more word balloons. So they're a little bit more word oriented than they are visual oriented.
Yeah, I kind of get the impression that the drawing writer will have a bit more trust for the artist to convey the idea. I get that sense. Whereas the writer, you know, the writer who doesn't put pencil to page, it just reflexively would want to control more of the story to make sure that it all gets in there.
Yeah, he's showing an example of writing in full script and the page by page how it develops. And I thought this was interesting. This is a process that I haven't done. Like I could print out my finished pages and make the comic in like a Ashcan edition, which is just a smaller, colorless version, and draw in my word balloons to kind of design the page with the word balloons, and then use that as my guide when I go letter.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of doing that, right? I just put my page digitally and I jump straight to lettering, but I think maybe just using my hand to, when I'm drawing the page, I am thinking about word balloon placement. But of course, after I've drawn 28 pages, I erased all my pencils, so I can't see my original pencils where I put the word balloons.
Yeah.
So I forgot about like kind of the idea. So like going back with the hand might be kind of jog the memory a little bit.
Yeah, I've not done many. I've probably done 20 pages, maybe 30 in my entire life. So I don't have any place to offer advice with any structure here or experience, but I draw the word balloons in with everything else. I write in quickly with an idea of how much space it's going to take so I can get the right size of the word balloon. And then I draw the whole panel without rendering anything. So I don't put the word balloon afterwards.
Well, he's discussing here the full script versus plot first, which is interesting. He calls it plot first, which is commonly known as the Marvel method, but this is the DC Comics Guide to Writing Comics. So of course there are like trademark issues, so can't call it the Marvel method. But I realized that I work Marvel method with myself. So plot first is
the Stan Lee method, they call it. Instead of Marvel method, they call it the Stan Lee method.
The Stan Lee method, yeah. It should be called the Lee Kirby method or Lee Ditko, because that, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically you tell the story in a very rudimentary way to the artist, and it's basically you write the plot down, and the artist knows he has 22 pages or 32 pages to tell the story. He draws it, gives it back to the writer, who then writes the dialogue according to the artwork he's received. Versus full script, which looks more like this, which is every page has the writer write down everything. Okay, page 3, panel 2, he says, kill him. Page 4, panel 5, he says his voice was a shriek. Like, it's everything's kind of laid out, and the writer then has to fill in the panels instead of the whole page, the whole book.
Yeah, yeah. One's more control up front, the other one's more control afterwards.
And I realized the way that I work with myself is I do plot first method. So I write down plot stuff, and then I break it down page by page for how this is like Spirit Girl 3. Is it 3 or? Yeah, this is Spirit Girl 4. And I break it down into story beats. And then I go to the page and I start thumbnailing how I want those beats to play out on the page. And I have a rough idea on that page they're going to be talking to each other, but I don't know necessarily exactly what they're going to say or what. I just block out space for word balloons, and then I do like what Stanley would have done, and then I go add dialogue. So it's plot first, but it's not with an artist. It's by myself.
Yeah, yeah, but you still have to figure out you have to communicate yourself to yourself clearly, because you kind of know your own thoughts, obviously, but you still have to sort of find the right collaboration between the writer part of it and the artist part of it.
Yeah.
Compartmentalize each from each other.
And I'm realizing the advantage as an independent creator is I don't have to worry about if it's going to fit in 22 pages. If the story just calls for more pages, I just add more pages.
Yeah.
Or if it's a brisker story and it's less pages, it's just less pages, right?
Yeah.
So that's an advantage of not working within the commercial model here.
That seems like a great time to bring up the craziest version of storytelling I've come across, which is Todd McFarlane's, who is a visually talented, very talented storyteller. And the lore goes that he begins drawing 4, 6 maybe pages and just seeing how they work and what they look like. And then he'll order the pages according to what he thinks the story. So he draws the pages before coming up with the story, and then based on what he sees in the pages in front of him, decides what order the pages go into, and then builds a story around that, and then finishes off what remains. It's crazy.
I've heard him talk about that. It's almost like everything's built around some cool moment he wants to show off.
That's right.
He figures out how to write a story to show off the cool moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of like how you would maybe go about directing Die Hard. You know, you figure out what scenes are going to capture the audience attention most, and then reverse engineer a story from it.
I do sort of think in scenes. There's certain things I just want to draw and put there.
Yeah.
But to go ahead and just draw and then write the story, that's a whole other level of courage.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The confidence and storytelling conviction it would take just to try that.
This part of the book he's discussing, which we've been doing, the advantage to working plot first versus full script. But ultimately, this is the message of the book. The way that works is the best way. He says that quite a bit. Here we're getting into story structure. The structure here that he's talking about is one damn thing after another, which is, he doesn't speak fondly of that necessarily, but he doesn't crap on it either. This is one of those things where things just happen because they have to happen because we've got a story to tell, and it's this week's radio play or this week's TV show, and the hero has to do a thing, so a thing happens.
Yeah, yeah, it sort of seems like the style of story that happens when you've got 22 pages to fill and you just kind of have to fill those pages.
I feel a lot of the Silver Age stories come across that way. A lot of the old Flash books.
Yeah.
I just like, well, something's got to happen. So now there's a dinosaur here. This is the thing that I remember the most. O'Neill's heavy-duty industrial strength structure for a single issue comic book. And it goes the hook, inciting incident, establishing the conflict, and then Act 2, develop and complicate the situation. Act 3, the climax and the denouement. And I remember him discussing the importance of establishing the conflict straight away, like start the story with conflict.
Yeah, hold tension throughout the whole issue, through the first page. And then also, there's 3 acts, and there should be a major visual, like one major panel per act.
Yes. Those important scenes.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, even though this is what stuck with me, I didn't do it for my first bit of Spirit Girl. Like the way that I saw it is I'm just going to throw myself in, because I know when you just start, like you're not the best at it. You just figuring it out. But Spirit Girl 5, I specifically wrote as a single issue to stick to this. It's kind of like when I learned guitar. I remember I reading that the Beatles did this too, where they would learn a new chord, and because they liked that chord a lot, they would write a song around it so that they would remember it. And I did that intuitively when I first started learning music. I would write kind of little songs around these chords that I liked, and this is sort of what I'm doing with Spirit Girl 5, which I've started writing. I just want it to be a complete single issue, like kind of based on this formula as well as I can, just to remember and practice that formula. I'll make this the thumbnail image for the YouTube for this video.
Weeping Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, there's such a kind of a YouTube trope thing to put that kind of expression on.
Yeah. That's a good story too, by the way. That's Tower of Babel.
I haven't read that one.
Grant Morrison and got it right here. Howard Porter.
He says it's Mark Waid.
It is Mark Waid. Yes, I'm wrong. Mark Waid took over. Grant Morrison started that run of the JLA, but this was a Mark Waid story. I think it's probably his best. Maybe Kingdom Come is better. That's a good story.
2 of those 2 we should do for the show at some point.
Yeah, I've got 2 copies of Kingdom Come. It's a great
hooks.
Yeah,
different kinds of hooks. It gives examples. This is something that I struggle with. I've never been like a hooky, even as a musician. I was never a hook kind of thinker. But I like how he says like something needs to happen. He says at least open a door, right? As a hook, like, because at least it's like what's behind the door.
Yeah, engage the curiosity of the reader.
I definitely need to get better at thinking about what are some hooks. I'm more like maybe like Tolkien minded. What are the themes, or what is the epic? What is the lore? I'm more into that kind of thing than I am the hook way of thinking.
There is almost no hook in Tolkien's story of storytelling. There's this, and there's points where the readers, kind of kept on the edge of their seat, but it's not at the beginning by any means.
No, no, it's the slow burn, and even as a musician, it was more that kind of musician. Um, but this is where he said to never open your story on an inanimate object like a building. People like people, so
Yeah.
uh, so that's I had my first page was I had made an establishing shot of a castle. I took it out because the next page it opens with the king on the throne, which implies a castle, so you don't need the castle.
I hear you. Yeah,
And
does make
it's more interesting.
you can't give a lot of facial expressions to castles.
He's showing
That,
off here different hooks on first pages or covers.
I love that picture, the front page, the first page of the Spirit.
Yeah.
There's so little to it, and it just draws me in.
Yeah, he says a hook can be a striking image. And he's talking about how Will Eisner used to do that on The Spirit. And he says he kind of says basically don't do that because you're not Will Eisner. You're not as good as you think you are.
Yeah, you would be wrong. It could be a poster for, like, if that was 007 instead of Spirit, I could see it as a poster for a movie.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. I'd love to read more of The Spirit, some kind of collected edition. There's more about that, the structure of the story. One thing that I liked, as a reverse engineering kind of thing, is to find out if your story needs to be edited and fixed. Is when you get to the denouement and you're trying to explain too many things about the story at the end of the story, that means your story needs to be rewritten so that you don't have to do that.
Yes.
I've always found like the detective stories to be a little bit frustrating sometimes, like crime mystery or whatever, where at the end of the show or the book or whatever, it's just like a bunch of facts about what happened under your nose that you couldn't tell. And the criminal or the detective was so genius that he solved it all, but it's like, but I didn't get to see it. You're just telling me what you figured out. And I always thought that was frustrating.
It reminds me of Deus Ex Machina storytelling, which was
You broke up a little bit. Can you start again?
reminds me of the term Deus Ex Machina, which is that Latin term when storytelling kind of write yourself into a corner and you can't get the hero can't save himself.
Mm-hmm.
So Superman just shows up for the first time in the story and saves the problem and relieves the hero from the problem. You know, it's when the detective has to explain everything at the end. It's sort of like that, or like a joke that has to be explained at the end. It didn't sell it that.
Exactly. Yeah. There's an example of another, like the MacGuffin. This is another way of kind of hooking the readers in when the protagonist and the antagonist both want something. They want the same thing. So it's kind of like this competition between. So here it's Batman and Lex Luthor both want a ring. So there's a tension between them.
That was the least muscular picture of Batman I think I've ever seen.
This one here?
No, the one next over.
Oh, this one. Okay, I thought you were being sarcastic because he's basically got like two necks here.
No, I know. Yeah.
It's a little bit
No,
more Adam West inspired, looks like to me.
certainly.
This is from Legends of the Dark Knight. It's good run.
The rendering is incredible. Robin's face looks like it could be done by Norman Rockwell.
Yeah. It feels like there's no inking or something. Or some of the, maybe there's some inking and some of the pencil rendering is left there.
Could be.
Because if you look at like Batman's legs, for instance, I don't know what kind of inking style would result in that kind of line. And you can even see some, it looks a lot like pencil marks to me.
I I agree with you. And the jawline on the panel at the top right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just this, it even looks like some smudging. To me, this looks like pencil.
If you were really good, I'm nowhere near this, but you could maybe go with a. If you were really confident, you could go with a light ink wash over top of inks.
Yeah. Interesting. Dave Taylor. Next, he's talking about creating drama, rising action, where like the action always has to crescendo. It's like an eternal crescendo almost. It strikes me as a very American philosophy.
Without question.
Something needs to happen, and if it's happening now, cut all the bits in between where the thing is not happening. He's giving an example here of Nightwing coming out, like stepping out of a Devin Grayson stepping out of a van, and then boom, smash cut to he's on the bike. Whereas in Eastern philosophy, a little bit some of the manga, there might be some atmospheric panels where he's just walking around.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, they say don't show the hero getting into costume. Everybody knows that the hero gets into costume. You don't need to spend a panel on that.
Yeah.
It also reminds me a little bit of Wall Street's sort of the corporate obsession with increasing your profits every quarter. You know, the action can't diminish from one scene to the next. It always has to be bigger and bigger.
I mean, it's good. It's good for, I think, like when you're starting out writing comics, it's a good philosophy to, like rein yourself in, because you have so many ideas. You don't want to put all your ideas there because they're not all necessarily all good. So this ruthless sticking to the, like, the story beats is, I think, is a good way to train yourself to be like focused, like be a focused storyteller.
Yeah.
I thought the discussion on the difference between suspense and surprise was interesting.
I like that too.
Yeah, he's saying surprise is of lower entertainment value because suspense keeps you interested, whereas surprise is a one shot. It's like once you've surprised, the surprise is over, whereas suspense can be sustained over time.
I think it makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Use a lot of Batman and examples in the book.
Well, he was a Batman editor for a long time.
That makes sense.
Here he's talking about genre expectations, which I liked, which I think is a lot of people have expressed frustration at superhero comics for doing too much genre, too much expectation subversion. Whereas he's saying, like, if you buy a book with with a cover of a guy wearing a cape and he's a mutant or whatever, they're expecting something spectacular, a certain kind of story. So if you then, spend 4 pages of people talking and eating sandwiches, that's just going to frustrate the reader because not all expectation subversion is successful, right?
It's a strong point.
A lot of it is kind of saying, I find there's an implication of you're not as good as you think you are, so just kind of stick to the rules until you are. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Discussion on subplots here. Not something I feel very strong about as a writer. I have to reread that a lot. There's a discussion on what a hero is here. Hang on, let me find it. He kind of defines the hero as someone who protects and serves. But I don't think that applies really historically, like Odysseus in the Odyssey. He wasn't very good at protecting at all. Like his whole crew died.
Yeah.
So he gives a definition that's a little bit more pared down here, which is the hero is who acts rather than passively having things happen to him. So I find that's a better definition.
There's a good line from a movie. I think it doesn't matter, about how if you have a decision to make and you don't make a decision, you're still making a decision.
Mm.
If you want to stop the robbery or help the robbery or just sit it out and don't do either, you're still contributing to the robbery in some way.
Yeah. He fires shots here at Alan Moore and these guys, I think. In the 80s, some comic book writers deconstructed heroism by showing the good guys to be unpleasant, greedy, lascivious. Traits many readers found titillating, especially when they were grafted onto heroes from early eras. Those stories had some shock value, but over time, deconstruction is a very limiting narrative strategy. Where do you go once you've shown your hero to be a creep? You've given your readers no one to admire.
Apparently Alan Moore started up the ABC comic line to sort of compensate for that a little bit. All the characters were sort of golden era, altruistic. They're all aiming upwards. They were all different characters, very different from each other, but none of them were addicts or drug addicts or none of them had a twisted past where they were trying to redeem some kind of thing.
Or rapers.
Yes, yeah. No Frank Castles who were shooting their way out of problems.
This was
I
really
enjoyed the Watchmen and the Dark Knight. They're getting a lot of flack lately because of that very thing. They're deconstructionists, and you kind of lose the idea of what a hero is if they're not acting very heroic. That was coming out of the 70s. Comic books were tanking. We might not have an industry the way we see it today if it wasn't for Frank Miller and Alan Moore, who really changed the game a whole lot and kept you might say, like, I think you make a strong case that the industry was kept afloat. If it was, at least it was like a life preserver they could tread water on for a while until they got their feet underneath them again. They were great stories, but for sure, the criticism I think is fair.
No, I'm on board with that. I've been thinking about that a lot. I feel like back in the day, people would mine hipster cred by touting that they'd read Watchmen.
For sure.
Whereas now I feel people are mining that same kind of cred by poo-pooing Watchmen.
Denouncing, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's zero way to deny that the craft that was put into that work, uh, like elevated the medium.
Without
It's,
question.
it's undeniable, and I remember reading that in the same span of time that I read this sort of thing, and even though I didn't get all the references regarding Golden Age characters and all that because I hadn't been steeped in that lore, what I admired about the book was the craft of it, of how layered and like rich in themes and all that, and how well it was put together. The rhythm of the panel system and all that. I just thought it really woke me up to the potential of the medium.
Yeah, that's part of what they're not getting credit for, I think, is the comic books matured a great deal over that span, and part of the what people pay attention to is the new maturity of the storytelling was dark and grimy and perhaps unheroic, but it was what you could do with the medium. Dave Gibbons doing just pages, almost all of them were just pages of 9 panels in the grid scale. It was such a great way to develop pacing for a long story arc that if you were just doing, 22 pages filler from one issue to the next, the pacing is it's a short payoff. It's like a 22-minute episode of Fresh Prince compared to a 3-hour run of Lord of the Rings.
I agree. I feel you're pointing out that the maturation wasn't just in the content, but the actual medium was matured because it was kind of a flex. Like, here's something that is done masterfully. What are you doing? Kind of thing, right? And so, yeah, it's just, it to me, it showed off that comics as a medium can do things that other mediums can't. So it made comics like a very attractive, viable thing for me when I read that work. Here is discussing once you've finished your script, like give it to someone to get feedback, and seek honest criticism and not praise. And it made me think about different times I've gotten feedback. I find you got to be careful about when you're seeking feedback, like how far into the process you are. If you're getting it too early, and the idea is just in like the formative stages, people aren't necessarily going to see the potential in the idea that you see, and they might like undermine your self-confidence in the idea. So you gotta wait till the idea is more fleshed out so that it can be communicated enough so that they know what they're critiquing.
Yeah.
So be patient. Sometimes you're excited about an idea and you want some feedback. Be patient. Just wait till it's fleshed out a bit more, and then, because what you want them is to critique maybe more the way you communicated the idea, not so much the idea. If you have an idea that you believe in, right?
That's a really good distinction.
Sometimes you want feedback, not about what the story is about, but how it's about it. There's some discussion here in this book about the different uh, like mini series, maxi series, that kind of thing, which is a distinction that is not discussed too much anymore because um, just a lot of the books that are coming out now are essentially limited series. They just keep rebooting them. So I know that the writers are given contracts for like 4 issues, 6 issues. They don't really hire writers for long runs anymore. It's just the industry's not there.
Yeah, it breaks my heart.
I guess the difference between a miniseries and a graphic novel, you could say, is the difference between a short story and a novel.
They're saying here that a miniseries has is a title that has a predetermined number of issues, but graphic novels often do as well.
Yeah, but they may not necessarily come out in installments. They might come out like all in one chunk.
There you go. Yeah, the graphic novel is usually a single.
Like David Mazzucchelli, the year one is printed out as a graphic novel, kind of, but later on he went on to do a book called Asterios Polyp that came out in one format. It's just collected. It's just one chunk. I was thinking about how um, indie comics makers, if you look on Kickstarter and that sort of thing, they tend to be one shots, like single 22-page comic one shot story, because the time it takes to produce multi-chapter stories as an independent creator, there's just so much time between chapters that
Yeah,
you're risk losing your audience. um, I'm doing multi-chapter to begin, just to learn things. I'm not too worried about audience retention at this point. I figure that'll come with time, but yeah, it's definitely for sure. Like it's it takes 6 to 8 months between chapters. I mean, it's kind of it's kind of a lot to ask of an audience.
it really is, and it's kind of a shame because the best way to compete with the modern, um, you know, if Marvel and DC aren't doing long-running stories anymore, the best way to compete with them in that field would be to do it from the indie scene. But you'd have to find out a production model where you could disperse all the different tasks at the same time. So as soon as one page is finished being penciled, it goes off to the letterer, and then the inker, and then the or maybe the inker and then the letterer, and then the colorists, depending on how you format it. You know.
Yeah, or at least you have the penciler can start working on pencils while his pages are being inked, and the inker can start working on pencils while the pages are being lettered, and so on and
Exactly.
so forth, right? Like it's
To
that's how they can keep a monthly schedule, these guys.
to compete with that, you'd have to find a way of making a book happen that's, if not profitable, at least not too costly, where there's four people employed at the same time.
Yeah, it's just crazy. But personally, I'm committed to writing Spirit Girl probably for the rest of my life. At least I have about 24 issues planned out. So people
Very
who are
cool.
patient and want this, uh, it's going to happen as long as I physically can.
Yeah, that's very cool, man.
I kind of want to. I see it as like almost like a challenge. Can I beat out these indie guys who do just some one shots? Like I want to be like more more like a Dave Sim guy. I'm just gonna keep churning these things out, whether you buy them or not.
That's a great way. Yeah, I've got a few Cerebus here.
Oh yeah. There's he's talking about mega series here, and he mentions No Man's Land as an example of one of the very few mega series uh, in existence. And it this mega series thing could only have happened at like peak 90s. Um, the industry just went through an amazing period. There's a lot of readership. So it's like you're going to do a book, a comic book that's, almost 1,500 pages long. And I have this, and it's so indulgent and bloated, and it's amazing. It's wild.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it overlaps like 8 or 10 different titles, doesn't it?
yeah, and it sort of has a through story of that involves Batman, of course, but more or less it's a premise where a bunch of people play in,
Hmm.
which was it's really fun. Really, I'm a world building guy. I like immersion. Um, I like kind of yeah. That's the kind of thing that I like. So even if the story isn't like as action packed or isn't as solid as you might hope, it's still fun. Like it's still I love the idea of a premise.
I think Gotham was the main character of No Man's Land.
Yeah, that's good. That I could see that. The novelization in a way is better because it kind of takes all the story threads and trims the fat. It's actually well written. It's a fun read.
Oh, wow, you got the novel too.
I don't have it now. That was back then when I was getting stuff out
Oh,
of the library.
yeah, yeah. They're underrated libraries.
Yeah, big time. Um, a discussion on adaptation. Kind of skipped that part. Continuity. Um, so here there's a discussion of continuity in terms. So he's like the continuity in industry speak is if Columbo's wearing blue pants in one scene, he has to wear blue pants in the next scene, right? Um, that's continuity. But there's a type of continuity here that's unique to Marvel and DC because the characters have been handed off to new writers over an 80-year period. So it's a real tangled mess to keep continuity going when like there's tens of thousands of stories to account for, right?
Need some good editors.
And at some point we'll do a video on Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was an attempt at wrangling continuity. And I found someone who wrote their dissertation on Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they're making a distinction between readers and super readers. Readers being people that want to know, okay, what's going on with Batman this month, whereas super readers want to know what's going on with the DC universe, and they want to know they want the whole thing to hold together. And with Crisis on Infinite Earths, there was a tip into catering to super readers, which made the audience a little bit more niche because, like there's only so many readers who know what's going on with, you know, Superman's cousin on Earth 3, right?
That's a super reader. Is they if they're not collecting everything, they're informed on everything in the universe.
Yeah, they want to know, not just, it's like you have your characters, maybe your character or your suite of characters you're interested in. Like you're interested in the Flash family. So you're picking up a couple books because you want to know about the Flash family. But the super reader is wants to know about, okay, why does Booster Gold have, like have this power now where, you know, 12 years ago in his second appearance, you know what I mean? Like they're just like so focused on all the details. They want to hold it all together, right?
We've moved past that completely. In the modern version, if it's a 6 issue run, then people can pretty much just do what they want with the character.
Yeah.
For example, a character from Marvel comic books that's been making the rounds of the last 10 years is Squirrel Girl, and they had her beat up fucking Galactus, Doctor Doom, and Fing Fang Foom, and um, put down Wolverine's romantic interests, and she just suddenly was in the center stage of everybody. And you couldn't do that properly if you had an editor editing the entire universe who was worried about what Galactus might look like to the Fantastic Four. Squirrel Girl could take him on her own.
Right. Right. Well, there's a delicate balance because uh, you need to, if you're so catering to the super reader, then and you're writing your stories so that you need to understand decades worth of material to get, then the regular reader just off the street is going to pick this up and going to be like, what the hell is going on? I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
But then
exactly. You
if
won't get
you're,
new readers.
yeah, exactly. So if you are um, not paying attention to any of that, then it's like breaking the immersion. Like you're saying, like this Squirrel Girl out of nowhere beating a cosmic entity. It's just immersion breaking, right? So
And then you won't
there's
retain customers.
yeah. So there's really a tension going on there. Um, I found another note. Talking about humor. What's important to remember when incorporating humor into your basically non-humorous stories is it must be organic. It should occur naturally and logically in the context of the action and dialogue and not be imposed from outside by a writer who's cramming it down into the scene. And
Now we're back to talking about Squirrel Girl again.
yeah, exactly. My note here is like, I'm side eyeing you, MCU, and that's the thing that kind of turned me off Marvel after Endgame, and even before that, there was some signs of it. I felt, I don't know if you've heard in movies they're called punch-up writers. So
Not
they
familiar.
give this the script goes to basically like a comedian, like a comic writer, like a comedian writer.
No.
And yeah, like, and then he punches it up. It's called punch up. So he finds ways to wedge in jokes in there. Now it works for movies that are supposed to be that, but it felt to me like the Marvel movies had a lot of punch up writing on it at one point, where it's just
Oh,
like,
for sure.
yeah, it just became like this joke fest. And
And it was always poorly placed. That makes a lot of sense. There's a criticism from a guy named the Critical Drinker who talks about it in movies. And particularly picks on the Marvel movies a lot for this one because they can't seem to leave an emotional moment without rupturing the tension with some kind of Josh Whedon style one-liner, you know?
to me, it feels like they're insecure about their genre or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, just can't. So a lot of people have criticisms of Mr. Zack Snyder, and I appreciate that. But what I did like was about his movies was that he he didn't seem insecure in that sense. If there was an emotional moment, a dramatic moment, he let it happen and he took it
Oh,
seriously.
he gave like a full 3 or 4 minutes to just Aquaman entering the ocean in slow motion.
Yeah, yeah. And he didn't make it like a joke. It was like, let's let these people be epic. And um, yeah, I don't know. It depends on your philosophy of and these people study the market and they have certain marketing things they're pursuing. So I don't know. I'm not all about that, but
If I could just put
uh,
in a wording, it doesn't seem like they're studying the market very well. It looks like they're studying their market and hoping that it widens. Like if they do a great job with Thor: Love and Thunder, they'll get another good movie out of it. But it's the opposite. They're not studying the market because the
yeah,
market's not responding to it, you know?
yeah, you broke up quite a bit, but it sounds like you're saying you feel like they're not in touch with the market, but more in touch with their market.
Yeah, for sure. An ever dwindling market.
So that's the DC Comics Guide to Writing Comics. Thank you for joining us. Remember to like and subscribe. And thank you for listening to the end. Oh my God, if you're here, that's amazing. Um, check the links in the description. There's lots of stuff going on at our Substack. I'm going to be launching Comics Odyssey website soon. So keep an eye out for that. And very soon, we're going to be showing you James's novel and also start showing pages from Spirit Girl 3 because we're going to start doing digital stuff in there. So we're pretty close to um, getting that ready.
Working on it every day.
Okay, see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Goodbye, guys.